After critical acclaim with the first of the series, Capcom quickly rushed to get Resident Evil 2 out the door. Despite a few hiccups and a delayed release, Resident Evil 2 was a huge success, as it sold 5 million copies and became the best-selling game in the series until just this past spring with the release of Resident Evil 5. Initially made for the PlayStation, it was also ported to the Nintendo 64, Sega Dreamcast, PC, and eventually the GameCube. It is a well-known fact that all the Resident Evil games follow the same formula until about Resident Evil 4, where it broke the mold, but this also turned a horror game into more of an action game. I'm not going to go over any of the mechanics of Resident Evil 2, as they are so similar to the original that I would be wasting your time. It has the bread and butter contents of any Resident Evil, like the fixed camera angles for dramatic effect, lots of puzzle solving, and mutated creatures for you to fight. There are several key differences that make quite the impact on both the story and gameplay, such as the introduction of Mr. X and the Game A, Game B feature. Mr. X is brought into the game much like Scissor Man from Clock Tower, and acts almost the same. He jumps out, harasses, and chases you around the whole game and does a very good job of it, and he remains one of the best stalker characters that horror games have to offer. Being the predecessor to the Tyrant, Mr. X is a key figure in the Resident Evil storyline and brings up the scare factor in Resident Evil 2 immensely. The other main addition to gameplay is the scenario system. Resident Evil 2 offers two playable characters, Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield, each with their own scenario. However, after finishing one character's scenario, the A game, and saving the data, a second scenario, the B game, is unlocked, in which the same series of events are depicted over the other character's perspective. This adds both replay value to your game as well as an interesting story arc, and definitely was a new feature to both horror games and video games in general. What you do in the first scenario also affects your surroundings during the second scenario. In addition, one's character also has access to the area in their B game that they normally would not have access to, and there are two scenarios for each character. Another new idea that Capcom brought along with Resident Evil 2 was the ranking system, in which you are graded based on the amount of time taken to complete the game, the number of times the game was saved, and the number of first aid sprays you used. Of course, this ranking system has been used in all the Resident Evil games up to this point, and continues to be one of the features that unlocks your bonus material. So why is Resident Evil 2 on this list? Well, improving on an amazing formula did the trick with this sequel. And I'm not just saying that because it was the best-selling Resident Evil game. It did improve on something that people liked, and managed to retain the sense of horror that Resident Evil distilled and bottled up. Only this time, Resident Evil 2 took that bottle and started selling it. New monsters, new characters, and a nice new paint job definitely brings Resident Evil back to the forefront of the horror genre. Even though you may have missed Resident Evil 1, that's okay, because to the newcomers for the series, with Resident Evil 2, there's never been a better time to get scared.